Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I am delighted to be with my friends Susan Jarboe, Dr. Kristine Pass, and Cathy Richman. Cathy actually has a great topic for us today, but before we get to that, I'll go ahead and bring us together in prayer. So I invite you to settle in, close your eyes if that's comfortable, and just let anything that's on your mind fall away as we join together. Let's take a breath and turn within. Father, Mother, God, Great Spirit, we rejoice in this opportunity to learn together, to share our love, our light, our perspective, to open it to the world for anyone who may be needing it. Thank you, God. Amen. Okay, and with that, we will turn it over to Cathy Richman.
Okay, all righty. Well, my book, I brought it along, The Anatomy of Anxiety, Understanding and Overcoming the Body's Fear Response. Here's a copy of the book. Anyway, it's a book that I've had for a while, and then when Linda asked me if I could share a book, I thought that was the one I thought of. So I went through it and kind of organized it, and I'd like to share with you. We'll start off with false anxiety triggered by modern lifestyle factors like blood sugar crashes, poor sleep, hangovers, digital overload creates unnecessary suffering that can be eliminated through actionable body-based solutions. True anxiety, however, serves as our inner compass, arising when something is out of alignment in our personal lives or the wider world. Though today we have the same physiological equipment to cope with stress, we have a different world to cope with. We encounter chronic low-grade stressors rather than acute life or death ones, such as inflammatory food, inadequate sleep, and an influx of messages coming at us through email, text, and Slack. And although stressors are not as severe as facing a leopard, they will initiate the stress response. Whether the perceived danger is large or small, the body just keeps doing its job of preparing us to face threat. Thus, with our modern diets and habits, which frequently trigger stress response, many of us live in a near constant state of feeling under siege. Your blood sugar is crashing after eating something sweet. The body interprets this as a mild threat to survival. You stay up too late, doom scrolling on your phone. The body feels surrounded by danger, deep deprivation, chronic inflammation from eating foods you don't tolerate, and the comment section in Twitter. These are all, from your body's perspective, indications that your environment is not safe. So the body releases stress hormones into this bloodstream, and this invisible chemical cascade manifests as the feeding and sensations of false anxiety. Not only is this response largely avoidable, but there are also ways to discharge the adrenaline that courses through our body after this stress response has been engaged, restoring us to a state of calm. Anxiety can also be the result of physiological imbalance, everything from inflammation and micronutrient deficiencies to hormone imbalance and impaired GABA transmission. These physical forms of anxiety might be the most constant and burdensome, but they are also the most easily prevented and treated. Indeed, some anxiety is entirely avoidable. We all know that getting a good night's sleep is essential to our well-being, but few of us realize how crucial this is for brain health. The connection between sleep and anxiety is a critical two-way conversation, Anxiety contributes to insomnia, and chronic lack of sleep makes us prone to anxiety. Nearly 40 million Americans struggle with chronic sleeplessness. Anxiety can also be a result of other physiological imbalance, everything from inflammation and micronutrient deficiencies to hormone imbalance and impaired GABA transmission. These physical forms of anxiety might be the most constant and burdensome, but they are also the most prevented and treated. Indeed, some anxiety is entirely avoidable. We all know that getting a good night's sleep is essential to our well-being, but few of us realize how crucial this is for our brain. The next connection between sleep and anxiety is a two-way conversation. Anxiety contributes to insomnia, and chronic lack of sleep makes us prone to anxiety. Nearly 40 million Americans struggle with chronic sleeplessness. And objectively, the world needs to change. We are in the midst of necessary reckoning. We have seen the Me Too movement pull back the curtain on sexual harassment and assault. The Lives Matter movement has opened up new and long overdue dialogues about centuries of injustice and harm and climate change. Activists are shouting from the rooftops in an effort to be heard before it's too late. It is critical that we shift from pathologizing and suppressing this anxiety to heeding its urgent message. We need to listen to those with their ears to the ground who sense the subtle and not so subtle dangers on the horizon. They are the prophets, and they may just wake us all up. On any given day, we might text, snap, Zoom, and Face, and though these may give us illusion of having diverse social interactions, none is this fully nourishing our fundamental human for connection. Without the sensorial context of being with people in a real, the sounds, smells, and touches of in-person contact, and the shared experience of what's happening around us, our various screen interactions are not scratching the actual itch of fellowship. As human beings, we are social creatures. No matter how introverted we may be, personal connection is a non-negotiable need. As recent research shows, social media use is associated with higher rates of depression and anxiety. One study found that we experienced decreased mood after 20 minutes on Facebook use. There is also research demonstrating that reduction online social media can elevate well-being. A daily ingestion of Doritos, for instance, leaves the immune system belligerent and confused. It keeps fighting, thinking it stands a chance at killing off the infection of Doritos. But our immune system isn't built to defeat chips, not to mention that we re-infected with every snack. Over time, a consistently inflammatory can result in dysregulation, hyperventilation, immune system, and inflamed body, and sustained feelings of depression and anxiety. I'm going to jump ahead here. On any given day, we might text, snap, Zoom, and FaceTime. And though these may give us the illusion of having diverse social interactions, none is fully nourishing our fundamental need for connection. Without the sensorial context of being with people in real life, the sounds, the smells, the touches of in-person contact, and and the shared experience of what's happening around us, our various screen interactions are not scratching the actual itch of fellowship. As human beings, we are social creatures. No matter how introverted our we may be, personal connection is a non-negotiable deal. One study found that we experienced decreased mood after 20 minutes of Facebook use. That's once it found an experience decreased mood after 20 minutes. Think of all the time that we spend on 20 minutes. And lastly, We're all built to serve a role in society, whether we're unflappable under pressure or unable to make it through the news without crying. The truth is, we are all capable of losing our song, at least for a while, especially in our current world. If you could drop a litmus strip into the stew of modern Western culture, it would reveal that the tone of life these days is anxiety. Anxiety is the verb, the vibe, the texture, and the pH of our agent. And the end. That was a lot of there was a lot of stuffed in there, but um, I I I left. I mean, I couldn't read the whole book, so I brought in those things that I felt were important to us, and just knowing that how many people suffer from depression and anxiety is overwhelming, and the the time that we spend on the computer is is affecting us, our moods, our depression. And so I think there's a lot of really good information that we have to deal with in today's society, which is different than what it used to be. So that's my conclusion.
Thank you. Kristine, would you like to comment?
Cathy, you read that there was a differentiation of the types of anxiety. The first one you mentioned was false anxiety, where it had to do with things like blood sugar crashes, chemical reactions within the body. And then there was the anxiety that comes with us not aligning with our soul purpose. I have experienced both types, and the false anxiety, what they labeled false anxiety, is the thing that I experience pretty regularly right now. I have a lot of food sensitivities, and we have to laugh because I'm like the canary in the mine, and if something is not going to set right, I'm going to be the first system that can tell you it's not setting right. And so the thing that really struck me, which I would like to point out, is that false anxiety isn't fake anxiety. It is definitely real. I felt both. I know it is definitely real. And it also, any anxiety doesn't suggest that there's something wrong with us. We need to go within. We need to ask the divinity within us to show us any right action that's needed for the quickest resolution of the anxiety. And that divinity doesn't fail to tell us what we each, as individualities, need to do or to know to return to conscious awareness of oneness, and therefore to peace. So I found this to be a really, really interesting topic. It sets close to home for me, and I appreciate you bringing it to us, Cathy.
Well,
Look
you're
forward to hearing what
welcome.
others have to say.
Thank you for the comments, and you're welcome.
This is a subject that I care a lot about because I too have suffered and do suffer from various forms of anxiety. What struck me was for me, how confirming your words were, because I'm doing some things right. And I would like to share with you what those are. One of the first things you mentioned is nutrition. And while I try to eat properly, uh, I don't know as much about nutrition as I should. And as it happens, I have a grandniece who's finishing her master's degree in nutrition. And as part of that, she needs people to practice on. And so this summer, she will be doing an assessment with me about nutrition. And I'm really looking forward to whatever I might learn about that. A second thing you commented on was sleep and how important sleep is. And it really is. I have been tested for sleep apnea twice, and I've never had it, but I still have difficulty sleeping at times. And I did a sleep study, and it was wonderful to talk with a woman who, this is through my HMO, a woman who specialized in sleep. And I learned so much about sleep. And for instance, one of the things was we've talked about how it's important to go to bed at the same time every night. Yes, it is. But according to the woman I spoke with, it's even more important to get up at the same time. I never knew that. And so I encourage people, if they are having difficulty with sleeping, to find out more about sleep and good sleep. Um, Related to that, um, in terms of anxiety, you've mentioned social media, and that fortunately is not one of my habits. However, I do spend a lot of time looking at computer screens and also television screens. And one of the things I've done is to buy those blue light blocking glasses. And I'm not wearing them right now, but they are really useful if you're watching television in the evening or if you are on screens, before you go to bed. It's good to wear these kinds of glasses. And so that is something that I have learned. Finally, our environments, and we've all heard of doom scrolling. um, I have to be very careful about what news I let in and what news I don't, because so much of the news is phrased in a way to jack you up, to get some kind of emotional response. And I really resent that. I would like my news just to be plain and ordinary without a whole lot of affect. So I really appreciate this subject of anxiety, and I hope some of my comments might be useful to some of the discussants, or rather, some of our audience. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This has been a great topic and a great discussion. You did cover an awful lot of information there, Cathy, but one thing I haven't heard the other panelists talk about too much that you mentioned was snack foods and nutrition. You said that we eat something sweet and then we have a sugar crash, and that can trigger a fight or flight response. It can cause our anxiety. Our body feels like we're in danger, we're crashing. I've learned a lot about anxiety and worked with a lot of different treatments and ideas, but I really don't think I'd ever heard that nutrition plays such a role in your body's fight or flight um, system. I found that fascinating. I'll really take a look at that. That was something that never occurred to me. Fight or flight, as you referred to, was created to keep us alive as a species. If it's bad, you have to run away or you have to fight against it. And we really don't need to do that too much. I believe another major trigger, at least for some of the men in my life, is traffic. So often they'll get cut off and they'll feel like it's war. They have to get in the lane ahead of them. And I found that irritating, but I haven't really understood it as activating that fight or flight process. And because of your words and your reading, I'm going to see that a little bit differently and maybe more compassionately than what I have before. Great topic. Thank you so much for bringing this up.
You're welcome.
Does anybody want to add anything before we close this session? Okay, then. I'm going to invite the rest of the panel to come back. And I want to remind you, our viewer, if any of this has really stood out to you, or you think you know somebody who might really benefit from viewing this video and maybe reading this book, please feel free to share our work. It may help them and it helps us too. If you aren't already a subscriber, take time now to like and subscribe to our video. Feel free to leave any comments. We read them, we respond to them, and we appreciate them. We appreciate you too. Thank you for being with us today. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.